Crazy.
Good. I'm about to bring up.
Welcome to Warrior Class.
Where the teachers will pass.
And you will too if you pass.
We had a dope intro thing set up. It was going.
Brand new.
And then
Ominiki was tap dancing.
I know.
Y'all missed it. Baba got a ballet little thing going, interpretive dance.
Did ballet into hip hop. Did a head spin.
Yeah.
Then create. It was
and
dope.
we did it live, so we ain't going. Yeah, that was messed up.
Can't redo that, unfortunately.
Next week we got you.
So today is Dr. Jared Ball, Anti-Intellectualism, and the origins of Ominiki and Bile. So we'll be speaking with Dr. Ball about anti-intellectualism, and then we're going to flip the script, and he's going to interview Bile and Ominiki. Because they haven't been interviewed yet. You know, stuff like that. But I don't know if you've ever been in. Have y'all ever been interviewed?
Me?
Either one of you, both of you.
Not on work.
Of course not. But I mean, period.
Yeah, I've had like a small little interview before.
Maybe something.
I've interviewed for plenty of jobs.
No, not those.
Okay. I didn't get any
interviews.
Maybe I want to say Kalanji.
Did he?
Maybe not.
I don't know. I know I've done a bunch of them.
I know you've done a bunch.
Yeah, Jared interviewed me before too. And that's right here on Black Liberation Media. Oh yeah, the name has changed, y'all. This is Black Liberation Media officially, and so I assume you can go back and check on Jared's I Mix What I Like podcast. He did an interview with me. That was pretty dope. Well, we're gonna get into it.
Black Liberation. Peace to the chat, real quick. Everybody, hit the like.
Yeah,
see you there.
Appreciate
I am. Who's that?
Librarian.
Candy Rain.
Candy Rain. I've said before, for those who don't know, that's my daughter. So
Dirt Bite Hustle.
So don't get into that's one of my daughters. Of my 8 daughters, I got 9 children. But don't attack my daughter if she says something. Because I know how to chat. Dirt Bike Hustle, Yappo Yappa, Brother Chris, Herschel D, Black Brew. Greetings, everybody.
Good to see y'all. New folks.
Welcome.
For the new folks that may be following the Dr. Jared, if you haven't seen us before.
Yeah, well, definitely. I mean, it's going to be several people coming in to see Jared. Jared is one of the most popular. We're gonna get to his bio in a little bit, but one of the most popular, if not the most popular person in Black Liberation Media, after me, of course. And then Jared. I mean, wherever I go, but no. I figured there'll be several people coming in, and Jared's analysis is incredible. So
we'll get to introduce. We'll get to, for the people who never tuned in before, they'll get to see us and find out who we are intricately.
That's gonna be good. So,
and of course, everybody knows the honorable, illustrious Baba Boone Ojitali.
I wish. Actually, I don't wish everybody knows me, but Candy Rain says, Shalapia Ni Daddy, Ominiki and Bile. Peace, Jared. I am excited for this.
Yeah. Greetings, Shalapia.
And I'll be fighting saying Dr. Ball because Jared prefers to just be called Jared.
Jared?
Jared.
Yeah. Oh, Jared. I was about to say, where did that come from?
Yeah, because that's his first name.
No, I thought you said Jared.
Oh, no. Well, I'm speaking like a Hebrew Israelite. I say yeah.
So before we get into it, real quick, Juneteenth. Did anybody do anything
still ongoing.
Well, I'm
I'm
saying
doing
for the
something
actual
tomorrow.
day. So you're doing something tomorrow?
That's the first day that I have not been working. So
No, I didn't. I'd never do nothing for Juneteenth, other than trying to not think about all the other atrocities that have been enacted upon us. To me today, I wanted to do this show today because my father was big against anti-intellectualism. Okay, big on intellectualism from two ways. He said you got to be book smart and street smart. You have to be. You can't be just one or the other, because if he said one or the other, somebody can always get you. So you got to be both, right? So he pushed that. And today is his birthday. My father's transition. Today's his birthday, so that's why I wanted to do that.
That's what's up. That's what's up. You ulterior motives, boy. You always see. I got why I know you. You got stuff. No, that's what's up. Peace.
Yeah.
And shout out and happy birthday.
And peace be upon him.
Yes. So real quick, I just wanted to touch on a thing that I saw that I thought was interesting, and I wanted to say something on it. So a lot of us followed that Kendrick Lamar had his concert on Juneteenth, and his concert, the reason it was good because at the end of the concert, he brought on people from different gangs that have never, that wouldn't be in front of each other, that wouldn't speak to each other, that would normally, it might be something on site. And he unified a lot of black gangs. He already had done that with just the music. It was doing it already organically, but at the end of the concert, he brought people on stage that we didn't know, but LA knew. You know what I'm saying? These were people from different sets that never should be in the same space. Let some people tell it. So he was able to accomplish something that nobody in this generation, nobody has done. Period. You know what I'm saying? People shaking hands, holding their hands up together from different. These are people that have been, are sworn enemies in a lot of cases. You know what I'm saying? Bigger than what people like us that's not from that culture could even understand. And so there was a lot. It was a lot of positivity that came out of that situation. And I saw some people, because we like to pick things apart and look at things and give our view on it. And like you said, Bob, like we talked about before, criticism and critiquing are two different things. You know what I'm saying? And a lot of people like, I couldn't watch that because he was saying, some people my age, he was just using nigga too much. I mean, it was just too much negativity. I couldn't watch. He was using nigga, and he just kept saying nigga, and I just couldn't watch. I'm sorry. It's 8 minutes. I'm right on the dot. I'm right on it.
Masterfully done.
And I just want to say, sometimes we got to look past our personal issues that we may have with something and see the bigger picture. And the other thing I want to say about it is I saw a group of individuals. I watched different podcasts, and it's a podcast of Latino hip hop heads on this particular podcast, and it was these Mexican brothers, and they were upset because they didn't see any representation on stage, but it was one Mexican artist that did perform, and they were a little upset about it. They said they didn't want to come off a certain way, and I understand, but I don't think they understand the picture of what's really going on. So I didn't want to say anything negative against it. I just want to.
Now you're talking about at the Kendrick Lamar thing, they were, some Mexican hip hop dudes were mad because no Mexican gangs were represented.
No Mexican artists. So, well, he had artists perform. Certain artists came out before him from different gangs, and one Mexican artist did come out, but it wasn't a representative of all the different Mexican artists that they have in LA and everything. And they were a little upset about that because they felt like it was supposed to be a LA thing, and they supposed to be, they have a lot to do with that, which they do have a lot to do with LA and the hip hop scene. But this was Kendrick and friends on Juneteenth, and that's a a certain thing, and they have to understand that because they thought Juneteenth was connected to it was connected to the Tulsa riots.
Oh, the
But,
Black Wall Street.
well, also there's an atmosphere going on.
The point is, they didn't even know what it was. They didn't even really know what Juneteenth was about,
Right,
and feeling left out.
Probably didn't care what it was about. But there's an atmosphere in hip hop right now. What's going on right now where there are those, there are Hispanics who are claiming that they started hip hop right with black folks.
Right.
And then there's a group of black folks saying, no, it was us. It was not y'all. It was black Americans specifically, because even some Jamaicans say it was us. It was hip hop came from Jamaican toasting, which I disagree with. And then the Hispanics brought in their music, and their blacks say, no, it was just us. It was us. It didn't have nothing to do with nobody else. We started it. Don't try to take our shit. So that's why you're hearing that. People are sensitive right now. It's not that show for that, so I'm not going to go into my opinions on it.
No, yeah.
But I certainly have opinions on that. You know what I mean? But that's what's going on. That's why that is there, and it's real sensitive right now. But of course, I'm not interested in what Kendrick did. I'm interested in who's behind him and who actually made it happen. You know me. I don't have much faith in any artist doing much of nothing for us, but I do believe, especially when you're dealing with gangs, if it's serious, you have other people involved who are serious to make that job happen for you. And I'm interested in who those people are to be able to get the gangs together. But it's not the first time that happened. In the 80s, at the height of the gangs warring with each other in LA, Bloods and Crips, Minister Farrakhan got them to sign the truce. He's the one who got them to sign the truce. That yes. I know because I was there.
Right. So and that, the LAPD is what got it broken.
Who?
The LAPD is how it got broken.
Of course. That's usually how it gets broken.
I don't want to lose. Real quick, this point I wanted to make is because you're right about the atmosphere. So I was looking back and I had a video I'm going to show and post of Big Pun, and Big Pun is saying, when he did the video, and he's saying Boricua.
Morena.
You know what I'm saying? Boricua. He's saying, I'm saying, Puerto Rican black. He said, I'm paying homage. He was like, if it weren't for black folks, I pay homage everywhere I go. Thank you, black people, for allowing me to do this music. Thank you, black people, for inventing this music. Thank you, black people, for creating music. Thank you, black people. And he just went in, and then it goes from that to Coogee Rap saying, yeah, when I met Big Pun, he walked up to me, he kissed my ring, said, thank you for, you know what I'm saying? And the point is that if you're a real student, if you in it, if you was really there, if you was in it, You know what I'm saying? So I'm not here to argue with anybody. I just thought it was interesting that how they felt, felt like they wasn't included, not really understanding what the meaning of the event was really about. And you know what I'm saying? And and that's just something I thought was interesting. So anyway, let's do it. I'm ready.
All right. So
actually have
real quick, Emmanuel Briggs says Mexican gangs are at war. Well, let me put it up there. Mexican gangs are at war with black gangs and with black people. They regularly read them out, I guess, run them out of their neighborhoods, and the Mexican gangs are under the EME, who works regularly with the Aryan gangs. I'm not sure of that, but okay. I will say, when there were no gangs, the gangs had stopped. I guess they still existed, but they weren't doing anything in Chicago until like 79, 80, I think it was 80. And I remember walking up the block and I saw a friend of mine, older brother, and he said, "Hey, Adam, get in the house because some shots gonna go off in a minute." I said, "What are you talking about?" He said, "Man, the Mexican coming up here because we whooped their ass up at Farragut High School. You had Mexicans and blacks going to the school, and at first everybody was interacting. It was cool. When in fact, it was definitely 80. When 1980 hit, the gang started back because the Mexicans had started beating up black students there, and the black students got together at Farragut High School on the west side, and they got together and they started attacking the Mexicans back, and they hurt the Mexicans worse than they hurt them. So there were fights, just individuals and little groups. And then finally the Mexicans started getting together and they formed the Latin Kings. They got active with the Latin Kings and they attacked the black students. And then the black students said, "Damn that." So they formed the Vice Lords. That's when the Vice Lords came back. The Vice Lords had existed, but when I was growing up as a little boy, wasn't no Vice Lords doing nothing. But then that's when it exploded in Chicago. And you had all these gang members, and it ended up being 12,000 Vice Lords. Then in other areas, Gangster Disciples, 14,000 Gangster Disciples. So they were the second and third biggest gangs in Chicago. The biggest gang being Chicago Police Department, and then there was them, right? So it was bad, but it started between a beef between Mexicans and blacks. That definitely happened. That's undeniable. But now, I mean, that beef doesn't exist, but the gangs never went away. I don't think they ever will. But getting into our topic.
Manifesto 40J Blaze, Rad, Brother
Peace.
Lisa.
So,
actually, Baba, I did have something. I know I haven't been here for a couple of weeks, so I've been holding on to a couple of pieces of.
Can we jump into a couple of pieces because of our time? Because we're doing the interview with Jared, and he's interviewing y'all.
Okay, well, how about I just do them next week then? It's not time sensitive.
Okay, so the author Isaac Asimov said there's a code of ignorance in the United States. And I kind of agree with you, Isaac. And there has always been. The strain of anti-intellectualism has been a constant thread winding its way through our political and cultural life, nurtured by the false notion that democracy means that my ignorance is just as good as your knowledge.
The pandemic, which is still ongoing, by the way, has exposed the war that is causing a multitude of casualties. The war against expertise and experts known as anti-intellectualism. This war has been raging as long as I can remember, and I'm sure much longer than all of us has been alive.
What is anti-intellectualism? It is opposition or hostility toward intellectuals in academic, artistic, social, religious, and other theories associated with those intellectuals as impractical, politically motivated, and even contemptible human pursuits. An anti-intellectual is a person who believes that intellect and reason are less important than actions and emotions in solving practical problems and understanding reality.
Anti-intellectuals present themselves and are perceived as champions of the people, populists against academic elitism, and tend to see educated people as a status class that dominates discourse and higher education while being detached from the concerns of ordinary people. Popular fiction has long dealt with the issue of anti-intellectualism, and we had to read all of these in school. The novel Brave New World, which was written in 1931, well, published in 1931, by Aldous Huxley, discussed the ways a utopian society was deliberately dumbed down in order to maintain political stability and social order by eliminating complex concepts unnecessary for society to function. The science fiction short story, The Marching Morons, which was published in 1951 by Cyril M. Kornbluth, features a modern-day protagonist in a future dominated by people with low intelligence. The science fiction film Idiocracy, which was released in 2005, portrays the U.S. as a greatly dumbed-down society 500 years in the future, in which low culture and Philistinism were unintentionally achieved by eroding language and education coupled with dysgenics, where people of lower intelligence reproduce faster than the people of higher intelligence.
Bob, I also wanted to give an honorable mention to a short story called Harrison Bergeron by Kurt Vonnegut. It was published originally in 1961, and it has those themes very strongly in there. And, you know, if anyone hasn't, if you don't want to read a novel, but you want to see something short that deals with those themes, then that's a pretty good story. And it's also interesting the way that they deal with those, you know, with the way they deal with dumbing people down.
I wrote a short story while I was at Columbia College, right? And it got me the respect of being considered the best writer there, among the students. And it was about this hitman who killed people where there was a war and they banned art, high culture, intellectualism, and there was a hitman who was killing people who collected the stuff. And then there's a movie. What's it called? It's with Taye Diggs and
I know I can't think of it. Someone will have it in the chat.
Dealt with a similar thing. God dog, yeah. And it was pretty good. It was crazy.
They had
gun poo in there, yeah. So.
I didn't know Brave New World was a novel. I thought that was a song Vanessa Williams did.
That's a whole new
world.
Okay, that's what I knew I was
from Aladdin, I think.
Anti-Intellectualism, y'all. Okay, go ahead.
Okay, more malevolent uses of dumbing down to preserve the social order are also portrayed in The Matrix and many dystopian movies, and of course, the classic Fahrenheit 9/11. Fahrenheit 451 by Ray Bradbury, in which the antagonist, Chief Beatty, a man who has also broken the law by reading some books, rejects books in favor of censorship.
Here to talk with us about anti-intellectualism and as an intellectual, will share an experienced and likely personal view is Black Liberation Media's own Dr. Jared Ball.
Dr. Ball is a professor of communication and Africana studies at Morgan State University in Baltimore, Maryland, and author of The Myth and Propaganda of Black Buying Power, Volume 1, which was published in 2020, and Volume 2, which was published in 2023. Dr. Ball is also host of the podcast I Mix What I Like, Earn Your Liberation. I Mix What I Like comes on different times during the week.
Whenever he likes.
Whenever he likes, right. Earn Your Liberation is every Friday with his co-hosts, Geechee Yaw and Diallo. And he does also on Saturdays, right before us, Saturdays with Renee. And he is co-founder of Black Liberation Media. Most importantly, though, he is a husband and father of 2 daughters. It is our honor and pleasure to welcome to Warrior Class, Dr. Jared Ball. I wish I knew how to do the clap things and all that stuff, but I don't. Peace. Peace, Jared. How you doing?
No, peace, everybody. The honor is mine. So thank you all very much. This is great. Thank you.
You got one of my favorite fighters in your background too. That is
so. Well, I figured I'd change it up. I mean, once you got into all the black versus brown talk, and in the context of warrior class, I figured, you know, and then I married into a Panamanian family, so
wow.
This has been an issue.
You were all
well,
because I was all Sugar Ray back in the day. You know, I was with the, you know, the black thing, the Maryland thing.
But your wife is black Panamanian, correct?
She is, yeah, she is, and but so technically she's in a different designation. She has she's in a slightly different designation, but the family certainly ranges from the most African Panamanian to someone they call affectionately as gringo, given his look. So
you get it.
Like with many black communities, the range is all there.
Absolutely.
You know.
I actually have a Panamanian aunt. My uncle, well, excuse me, she transitioned a few years ago. But my uncle married a Panamanian woman, my mother's brother. And she was definitely black Panamanian. But it's just like you said, like her, they would have family come visit, and they were all across the spectrum.
Oh, you see, yeah, absolutely. But Panama is I mean, it is a very black country relative to you know.
It wasn't until I moved here. Excuse me, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say that I admit, I mean, as much of a Pan-African and all the this is and that. I mean, I admit, you know, we all have our biases, and I was all Sugar Ray. I was like, you know, he's, you know, but yeah, no, it's but our dog is also named Roberto too, after Roberto Duran. So, you know, but anyway, so yeah,
I was surprised when I moved here. I met the first guy, the first guy I ever met from Panama, and he was explaining to me, because he looked like a white guy, and he was explaining to me that most people from Panama look like me. He was like, "You'll find more people that look like you than look like me." And that was the first time I ever heard that. I was like, "Wait, oh, really?" I just never, you know. So
well, I mean, in part it's because of the particular colonial history of that region, which was, and I sometimes joke affectionately, you know, y'all were Colombians up until like 5 minutes ago, and you know, when because they were up until I think it's 1913, and then the U.S. Army drew another line and said, not only are you Panamanian, but you have to. They even said you have to adopt the racial codes of the United States if you want to find U.S. support for yourself as leadership in your new country. So so when you brought in all of then they brought in all of the Caribbean workers. So you have that's where you get that a lot of that black population, and they're cordoned off to this day. In many cases in Cologne and other pockets of the country, but the mixture and the you know, I mean, it's pretty clear. So very indigenous and very African Panama is, but yeah, you know.
Okay.
So, but yeah, I thought, you know, given where the conversation was headed, I thought this was appropriate.
All right, well, we're gonna get right into it. So, Dr. Ball, you hate dumb people. Let's talk about it.
Oh, damn.
Let's talk about you hate dumb people, you discriminate against them, and you want to know why. No, I'm just kidding. I came from dumbness, and I want to understand now. Okay.
Oh, my God.
Let me settle down.
No, but actually, that's a good...
What's that called? No, okay, so
relax.
There's a lot of talk about, you know, anti-intellectualism nowadays, usually by anti-intellectuals. First of all, do you feel that most intellectuals are being quiet about the subject? And if so, why? And since we are being dumbed down, and it has been a long belief that we want to hide something from Black people in books. Am I saying that right? Excuse me. Let me
no, it's long been believed that if you want to hide something from Black people, you put it in the book.
Since we're being dumbed down, and it's long been believed that the best way to hide something is in a book from Black people. Why do you think that? If you think that it's, do you think intellectuals are being quiet about it? And if so, why is that?
So so the specific question, are intellectuals being quiet about the attempt to dumb us all down, or about the anti-intellectual? Okay, yeah.
Basically, right.
Well, on the one hand, it's hard to, if you, so first of all, I want to address the joke that you started off with, if I can, because I think that's important, because on the one hand, I think it's important to understand that when I'm saying anti-intellectual, I don't mean professional academics, scholars, PhDs, et cetera, and so forth. I mean, for me, an intellectual is anyone that endeavors with effort and interest to expand the mind, to raise questions and answer questions, who's curious, who's, and I think for the most part, all of us have a version or a variant of that. And then it's important, I think, to recognize how much effort is put in to suppress and manage that. And that's what I think most of us are negatively impacted by, that there is so much. And I think most of us are unaware by design of how much effort goes into suppressing the tendency of most human beings, if not all human beings, to be curious and to want to raise questions about their surroundings. So that's one thing. So when you know, so I know it's often confused when particularly someone who is known to be a professional academic is saying something about about intellectualism, that there's a meaning that it's only those who are credentialed and have portfolios, so to speak, and that's not what I mean, and at all. So that's that. That's one thing, and I, in general, all joke when we're not having jokes and fun time and trying to be, you know, somewhat, I guess, professional in discussion. I don't think any of us are dumb per se. We are encouraged, again, to suppress areas of interest or intellectual development so that we don't become politically threatening.
Now, hold on. You don't think any of us is dumb? Are you talking about just on this podcast or out in the world?
In the world. It's certainly not on this podcast.
Okay, because I can understand you saying about the podcast, but you mean the world ain't no dumb people? I'm gonna need
but really what I mean by that is what I mean by that is that people are, the goal is to suppress intellectualism. So people, to the extent we would call them dumb, are made dumb by design, or encouraged to not develop in the same way we might discuss in the context of this show. A lot of us would have some sort of natural instinct to put our hands up and defend if we're being attacked. But that doesn't mean we know exactly what to do with that. And if there's an effort to suppress developing that skill, we should recognize that and work around it. And that's really all I mean. So like, we all are born with various. And it's funny because I mentioned about a year ago on this platform, and I still have it. I found, I shouldn't have found it, a document from my childhood where I went, apparently, I don't even really remember this, was put under like this battery of psychological examination. And it's not, it's not always the most flattering document to go back and revisit. So my point is, we're all born with various capacities and capabilities. And I think, we just have to recognize when some of those are encouraged to be developed and when they're being suppressed. That's all I mean. But yeah. But in the shorthand, there are dumb people out there who do dumb things, but it's just often by design. That's all.
Exactly. And I agree with you 100%. I mean. Yeah. Don't mind me when I throw those out there like that. I just,
I know. I
don't know where they come from sometimes. You got to excuse me.
But I do. But that said, because of my job and area of interest, I do spend probably more time than what would be, I guess, so-called the average person, given it's not their job or whatever, around what intellectuals or scholars are saying. And in those spaces, there's a lot of discussion around intellectualism being dumbed down, what is encouraged, discouraged, what does it mean to be an intellectual? There's a lot being said. But I think what has become an issue for me, and this is why I keep been saying a lot lately, that we have a civilizational crisis in methodology, is that intellectualism, broadly speaking, is under a new wave of assault. I don't think it's new per se, but a new wave and a new form with new levels of sophistication and technology. We're being that tendency that I was talking about to want to be intellectual is being addressed and suppressed and managed in very different ways right now, and I think very sophisticated ways. So that old form of saying, if you want to keep something from Black people, put it in a book, is more reflective of really a colonized and an experience of enslavement, where people were denied access to books and literature and certain forms of literacy, but that was itself a suppressive effort. It's not meant to suggest that Black people have never or could never and are never interested in reading. So the new forms of that are to maybe not put something in a book to keep it away. It is to produce more books and more video and more film about those, and deliver it in a variety of different ways that perform that same suppressive effort or intent or goal.
Especially, and we're gonna keep moving, but I agree with you. And we had this conversation before. Like, even more now than ever, it's important for us as a community to have our own intellectuals, our own physicists, besides just Neil deGrasse. We need more people in these fields that we can trust, that we know, that we can trust to tell us, because all of us are not going to be mathematicians and scientists, but we have enough in our actual community that we can trust, that can bring the information back and relate us, to have our politics, because that's a big thing. You hear somebody talking about one thing and you know how this works. You're smart, and we start following you. We have no idea how you feel about this subject. We're following you because you're the smartest physics we never seen a Black. You know what I mean? We don't know that you have these political views. And I'm not trying to say anything about Neil deGrasse. I'm just making a point when you only have one person that you can trust. So it's important for us to be intellectuals as well. All I'm saying.
If I could chime in also, actually, my son goes to an African Center school, an online school, and they have one thing they've been teaching them heavily this year is how to do research, and also how to vet the sources. So that's another thing that can really help us. Maybe we don't necessarily follow this one person, and we may not necessarily need to have them have the same political views as we do, as long as we know what their views are, so we know what to trust from them,
exactly,
and what to be skeptical about. So
yeah, I mean, that's always that big challenge. It's not to teach people what to think, but how to think, and that's should often be our goal. And then we don't have to always worry so much about, are they going to end up following Neil deGrasse Tyson or
right.
What's his name that just wrote him that 36-page letter? Terrence Howard.
I love Neil deGrasse. If anybody seen his response to that, it was beautiful. It was beautiful.
It was sophisticated hate. He was like, and he basically said, you're too stupid to have. I mean, he was like, your first line was just set up, your whole premise is a mess. But yeah, but that's sort of, yeah, like we should not only learn how to prevent from being tricked by a Terrence Howard, but from becoming one, because it's very easy to be dragged down certain avenues that are very inviting, and to think that, oh man, I've really come up with something here. But if you aren't versed in some sort of intellectual tradition or practice or community where you can vet, it doesn't have to be an academic peer review setting per se, but that concept is great, that you have blind reviewers of your work who could say, my man, like Neil was trying to say to do, Like, I have to give you this heavy critique because out of respect to you and to our field, and more importantly, to the rest of humanity or to our people, we can't be out here making these kinds of mistakes. So, but yeah, and I think you alluded to it in the intro that with an increase of highly concentrated, privatized, and penetrating media, and a lockdown, a pandemic, confusion, etc., and Joe Rogan's podcast being the #1 in the world, we're like it's like the pinnacle of you got to learn how to think, or you just going to be dragged all over the place and very easily. So
it all sounds very convincing.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And, for me, I mean, around the COVID thing, we even had some arguments on the platform around it. My thing kept, and still really is that we can both read an article, but I know just from my own field, if you are not well versed in my field, you can't just pick up an article and vet the quality of that article. Even if you like it, you can't. Right. You just can't, because you don't know the author, you don't know the sources, you don't know the arguments around that this person is addressing, even if they're right. You don't know what the field has been saying. You don't know the history around those arguments. So certainly I don't know the science, we don't know the biology, we don't know all and so easily we fall into, I like it, therefore I don't need, or I'm more easily therefore convinced that those who would be experts in this field are unworthy of their expertise, and therefore I can sort of on my own debunk an entire wing of thought or an entire field of science. And I think it's dangerous.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, the next question is, are all intellectuals smart and all anti-intellectuals dumb? And if the answer is no, then is an anti-intellectual who thoroughly and skillfully expresses their analysis in reality an intellectual?
Yes. So that's what I was going to say. How could you be an anti-intellectual and skillfully make an argument? That it would have to be, because that argument would have to be based in some sort of engagement with the material. It's beyond just the skill of a show person. Like, you could be artful, but if it's a skillful and substantive argument, it's going to have to. So I don't think, if I remember how the phrasing, you not all intellectuals are smart, but you can't be smart without being an intellectual.
Yeah.
I think I got that. Because to me, again, intellectualism is just recognizing a curiosity and following up on it. And then we could argue around methodology, we could argue around theoretical approach, we could argue around the quality of the argument, but to satisfy what for me is the core component of being an intellectual is just saying, I am curious about this and I want to go learn. So it's the only time I'm looking at somebody as being anti-intellectual is when they express a disinterest in exploring the argument. And that's why even with my children, anyone, I'm like, we don't have to agree on your conclusion. And certainly with my students, I'm like this. I don't have to agree with your conclusion, but you got to show me some steps. You got to show me how you got there. I got to see an effort to explain how you got to that conclusion. Do not just ever tell me, I'm rocking with this decision because I feel like it, or because, I liked that one book, or I heard that one. Please don't, anything more serious than like a song or a shirt or whatever. You gotta, I don't know. Wait.
So you hate feelings is what you're saying. So now we get to I'll just that.
In my household, we say Fuck your feelings.
Yeah, Bob, that's what
That
I'm
doesn't mean
saying.
you don't feel, but damn, give me some background. You have to base what you're saying on something, because a lot of what happens on social media, people just one thing that happened. I had posted something about I was teaching a workshop on for USPI, Urban Survival and Preparedness Institute, survival and preparedness. And a sister commented on it. She said, well, I don't have to learn survival and preparedness. God has blessed us with Kroger. I said, well, sister, when things fall down, I wish you luck, but that is the most ignorant shit I've ever heard in my life.
God will just bless us with something else.
Huh?
If Kroger goes down, God will just bless us with something else.
So
the universe don't like boys.
When the pandemic hit, that same person now is asking me, what should they get? I said, well, what you won't get is an answer from me. So,
Get
Get up out my face.
Right, exactly. Get up out of here. You're talking about God blessing you with Kroger. Yeah.
I do.
But even that, so as I've shared, like for me, one of my favorite things nowadays are those atheist debates YouTube channels. And even where people are believers in this or another faith, where I may not have that, that doesn't mean that they are automatically anti-intellectual. There are many brilliant intellectuals who do not rest on their just God said for their whole argument. And I really appreciate that, is that my faith can withstand exploration. It can withstand some questions, some study, some analysis. And I'm like, that's it for me. Like at the end of the day, I whatever it is, that I think is should be the bare minimum. Yeah.
Right.
There are we've been talking about a lot of podcasts. You mentioned one, Joe Rogan, where basically, they have researchers a lot of times doing a lot of the legwork for them, or they have guests come on and they discuss things, but sometimes it's still kind of limited to, the conclusion that they kind of want to come to. What do you think about being an intellectual by association? Someone who has someone behind them really doing all of the research, and then they just come on and kind of, sort of have a discussion about those subjects.
In other words, I think Birdman just got his honorary doctor's degree, didn't he?
Honorary.
Birdman, he got a doctor's degree.
Honorary doctorate degree.
Right. That is.
So as
Dr. Birdman.
So many of us, and I'm guilty of this, who have PhDs, look a little sideways at the EDD, which is even when you earn it, is sometimes not, because it's more for people who are going to run schools than teaching them. And when you get an honorary doctorate, that's the one you get. You don't get an honorary PhD. You get your honorary doctorate is an EDD, an educational doctor. So it's from some of us, admittedly myself included, it's looked a little bit like that's why they give you that one, because that's
okay.
That's that.
So now you don't respect Birdman, is what you're telling us.
So my unending respect for Birdman. No. My unending respect for Birdman comes from elsewhere. That's
okay,
all. He don't need to get some honorary degree to get my respect. My unending,
you got limitless respect on his name. You got to put respect on his name.
Hey, I will say, I years ago I used to hate on that whole crew, and then this is even before Katrina. I went down to visit a friend in New Orleans and visited all those neighborhoods where they come from, and I stopped hating immediately. I was like, I didn't grow up with much, but I didn't grow up like this. And if I lived in some of those neighborhoods, I might have been making whatever music I had to make too. I'd have been saying whatever I needed to say to get out of that. So yeah, that's why, Again, I may not love all the music, but I definitely understand in ways I did not once upon a time. I was like, man,
I hope y'all never hear
poverty,
my first mixtape.
huh?
Hope y'all never hear my first mixtape.
Yeah.
Hey, but I mean, so yeah, but yeah, no, all respect due to Birdman, and
whoever has
but
their
except he's telling the cats that reading ain't gonna help you.
That's nuts.
And that was a little anti-intellectual to me. That
Right.
part was a little bit. Don't discourage the reading, because what else are they gonna do that's gonna get them out any sooner? Like, how is that gonna, like, what? Well, maybe I don't need to be part of that conversation. Maybe you got some other plan. I don't know.
What attracted you to education? Educating yourself and others. So what attracted you to?
I mean, honestly, that's just the way I was raised. I mean, my mother, I call her the bougie proletariat, because sort of the point we we're talking about, she didn't go to, her parents didn't go to school. She didn't go to college until she was in her 50s. But she was always a big time intellectual, always reading, always curious, always had questions, always want, so, and that was what she was always telling me. You have to read and you have to raise questions, and you, in her own way, was saying what I'm saying now. You can't just reach conclusions, even if they're right. You can't reach conclusions that you just sort of fall into. You need to understand how you got there. You need to put some thought into that. So it was a delayed effect. I mean, I had to, get in trouble and do the whole military thing and all that before it clicked. But that's really where it started. And then in terms of the career, that honestly I always think of it more of a hustle than anything else, because once I saw the schedules of academics, I was like, word. I said I could work with that. So let me try to get a PhD so I can have summers off and holidays and adjust my schedule. And I was like, yeah. So that was it. But the idea, the appreciation for ideas, that was just imposed from my household. That was always everything. I mean, even when my mother would talk about my parents' origin stories, it started with her being attracted to his intellect. She was like, yeah, he was tall and dark and handsome and all of that, but blah blah blah. But he was a poet, and he read, and he wrote liner notes for jazz records. So everything was the intellect. So that was it. And honestly, I tell my origin story with my wife. Like, I saw her in the room we were all in, and I was like, she all right? Yeah. But it's when she spoke and introduced herself and how she carried herself, and being such a small person but commanded the room when she spoke, I was like, damn, I was like, that's why I followed her out to the hallway to get her number. Because I was like, because by then, once you realize, after the physical attraction, there needs to be there's other things that are important. For me, was the intellect. And I was like, that's an intellect I won't follow. So yeah.
Now, did you feel you are intelligent, and if you're with an intelligent woman, you'll have intelligent children? Or was that ever a thought?
I don't think I had a conscious thought like that. I think I just took for granted that there would be a certain level of intelligence, just because if I'm an intellectual and I'm married to an intellectual and there's an emphasis on that, then they're going to have a certain level of intellect. And sometimes I'm like, we'll see, we'll see. It's still in progress. But that's, I just assumed, so yeah, and we've encouraged that, in the very same way. As I said, I mean, I tell them all the time, and they've been encouraged to read. They to do well in school, to learn how to study. I mean, so and more importantly, to try to learn how to think. I at least expect I expect it.
That brings me to a good question.
Yeah.
So when is it acceptable in your home for your children to reject going to college or dropping out for lack of interest or because of politics they develop while in college?
It's not. And that's not even for me. My wife is even more, I think, stringent on that than I am. So there has never been, not going to college is just not an option. It's just not an option. We're just doing everything. We're just making sure they're not going to go into debt. That's the one thing we're making sure doesn't happen. However, we have to make that work. But yeah, no, so they got to go and then they got to finish. And then really the rule in this house is you have to have a terminal degree before you can talk to us about doing whatever you think you want to do. So whether you're a medical doctor, whether you have a Master of Fine Arts, whether you have a PhD, it's got to be the degree got to be terminal. So they can't even just stop at undergrad. And but we'll see. I mean, what I often tell them is if you want to do something else, make us have a decision to make. Do the work and present opportunities that would make us say, well, damn, we can't deny you that. You know what I mean? Like, if you really want to change up the plan we have, you got to put in some work and come back with something. So to me, it's almost like the intellectual thing. You can't just have a conclusion. You can't just say, I don't want to be in school because I don't want to be in school. So I'm like, if you map out, if you come to me, and really it's their mother they would have to convince, but if you come to me and say, look, I don't want to do this.
Right.
Huh?
I want to be an electrician.
Say, Dad, welding is my passion. I this lawyer thing, doctor, but when I weld.
So exactly. That's a perfect, exactly. So the thing would be,
weave, Father, when I basket weave, something about basket weaving.
Then you better come to me with the plan. So I want to see that, okay, while your grades have been dropping at college, you've been preparing for the welding exam. You've been studying. You've been going to the local, I don't know, and getting your apprenticeship hours. I don't know what in other words, show me that this is what you really, really, really want, and that you're really dedicated. And then make me say, well, then, damn. But if you just show up and say with a whole set of F's and say, oh, by the way, because I don't really feel this and I kind of want to just, I don't know, whatever. And then even if it's welding, and then I'm like, well, where's all the welding information? Well, I'm gonna go look at it next week. It's just gonna be a problem.
Okay, so you don't completely hate trade schools, is what you're saying?
No, again, the point.
I got you all wrong. I thought you hated trade.
No, and in fact, and I know it's like, I know. But in fact, part of what I've even said with my oldest is that not necessarily that it's trade per se, but that the university can prepare you for a lot of different things if you approach it the right way, and in ways I didn't know at the time, but we can help you do it. So, for instance, my oldest had shown some proficiency with video editing, and while it's not, I don't know if that qualifies as quote unquote trade versus I don't know, white collar, whatever. But I was like, if you don't want to be in an office, if you don't want to be listening to a whole bunch of this, that, and the third, become good at this, and then work out of your own house at your own hours, taking your own contracts, get all of the education for that you need from the university, get exposed to some liberal arts. So you might have to read a couple books in the process, so be it, and then be ready to go. And if that was what she, and then if she really came back with like, I mapped this out and I put in this effort,
right? So
she'll still have to make the argument with her mother, but at least.
So your son could drop out of school and be a rapper technically if his demo was good enough.
See.
Okay. All right.
I know. I told my mother, well, two things. One, I wanted to leave college and go to the Army, and she said, hell no. Right? I ended up going to the Army, but she was like, hell no. I ended up, I went to the Army after I got married. I got married young too. But the next thing was I really don't need to be in school to be a writer. They've said I'm the best writer at Columbia. I think I should drop out and just be a writer, and I make millions selling books. And she was like, hell no. I'm not dropping out to be a writer. Now imagine if I had written a book that sold 1 million copies, she probably let me do what I wanted to do. Proving out okay. And I tell people I've written at this point 48 books. If you add up all the money from those books, I could probably buy all of us a coffee. It wasn't that bad, but it's nowhere near what I would say is a career.
And I'll get the tip. I'll pay for the tip with the money I've made from mine.
So it's like, come on, man. Yes, you're absolutely right. If you're gonna do something else, you got to show that you got a plan and that you have actually dove into this thing where you're serious. Because if you're just playing around, damn, our son just graduated from Hampton, and for us,
congratulations.
Thank you.
Congratulations,
right now he's doing a internship, and even my wife's not playing around. She's like, okay, I'm cool with internships, but damn that your intern, you just graduated, and he's getting ready to go to school now back to get certified in graphic design, but his internship, he's working for one of his frat brothers who owns a business, but he's cleaning the streets. She's like, we didn't pay for you and go through all this for you to be cleaning the damn streets. It's okay. We need people who clean streets, but that's not what we sent you to school for. And you ain't even getting paid.
Wow.
So,
yeah, that would be a challenge. That would be a challenge.
like, nah, man, nah. So,
yeah. I mean, so for us, I mean, well, I'll speak for myself. For me, the importance of college is a couple things. One, I do think it's important for young people in certain cases to have some time to transition into adulthood, where our brains aren't even still fully formed before we're 25. So I like that you get a little bit of a transition. I do still like, and I naively cling to that liberal arts idea, that I do like the idea that you're introduced on some level to a wide variety of ideas and thoughts and histories, and you get exposed to the world and get introduced to, a little bit of an advanced level of information. Or you get pointed to where you can learn more. And then I do like that the potential that a degree might give in preparing, and I'm thinking now about my children, them to have as many opportunities and options as possible. And unfortunately, that still does play a factor. In depending, it depends, but it does still play a factor.
You kind of answered the last question.
Right, sure.
No, you are. I'm saying you're kind of
right
now. What you're saying is funny.
Well, that said, if the question is about, it was interesting, and I don't remember the details, but I did just read an article a couple of weeks ago about that was addressing the claim that a degree is a waste of money. Wow. And that why, what are you going to do with that Black Studies degree, or what are you going to do with that philosophy degree? And the Chronicle of Higher Education article that I was reading, and I didn't vet the numbers, so I don't, but to the extent that the claims or the studies were done correctly, the studies showed that unemployment rates across degree versus non-degree, or no, I can't say degree versus non-degree. Unemployment rates across fields of various fields are about the same. So Now, I don't know what it, I still think having a degree helps versus not having a degree in overall employment and pay. But the point was still that there was no disadvantage to not getting some science, technology, engineering, math related field degree. There was nothing wrong with you're not more likely to do, you're not going to have more employment in engineering than you are in philosophy or whatever else. And you're not going to be paid anymore for the most part. So at the end of the day, that's why if you're not fully committed, or if you have the option, if you can do it without going into terminal debt, I still would encourage at least considering taking the time and spending some time at the university. That said, my own experience through my career has been very, it's produced a lot of cynicism too. So I don't know, but yeah, that's still my general approach.
All right. How do we encourage or teach others to reject anti-intellectualism?
It's a good question. I struggle with that all the time. In the classroom, my first response to something like that, which happens a lot, is, even if you were hanging out with your friends, what level of vetting do you apply to claims made? So in other words, you're hanging with your friends and somebody says something, you automatically start assessing, well, he prone to tell stories, so this might need another round of, or she, well, she says that because I know that, a couple weeks ago, she, felt a certain kind of way, and now she's trying to make it look a different kind of way now. So you apply context, you apply, you start comparing it to existing information. Does it challenge your initial state of being, or does it reaffirm it? And then when it's challenged, you respond to something. So in other words, why would that change when we're talking about things like COVID or economics or race, class, history? Right. Why would we be so willing to accept something because it was delivered in a beautiful movie or in a song we like, when if your friend said the same thing, you'd even be like, even your loved one, you might be like, even I say something to my kids, they're like, yeah, but that's because, my daddy doesn't, he doesn't really like so-and-so like that. So when he says that, we got to take it with a grain of salt. We might need to lift the hood on that story, so to speak, and look at what's really going on. So that's really that's intellectualism. That in and of itself, for me, is the first step or stage, at least, of being an intellectual. What are you saying? I am curious about that, so I'm going to go learn. So I need to go look at what that one is saying and what that one is saying. I got to put it into this context. Others have pointed this out. I'll stop here, but it used to be, when I first realized what this was over when I used to listen to a lot of sports radio back in the day, particularly when I was delivering pizza. And you would hear these really, really insightful arguments about which running back is better than the next one, or which ball player is better than the next one, like really deep. But then you bring up race, class, history, economics, and people are like, nah, I'm good because I heard so-and-so say that.
That conversation has been coming, or there's been a lot of conversation surrounding that lately, with them integrating the Negro League stats into the MLB. That you hear a lot of, it was a different league. It's apples and oranges, all of that.
And baseball nerds are special. Like, they get into it. Like, half of it because some of us think the game is not particularly exciting. They have to get into stats in a different kind of way, and they get very much into it. So you're right, and you get very nuanced. Well, I mean, I've seen all kinds of stuff. You can't, Josh Gibson. You can't just. You have to add to his batting average, considering the fact that the kinds of travel he had to endure, the kinds of accommodations he had to endure, the lack of pay he had to endure. So you start all of that. You add in. So my point is, once you start adding in all that context to talk about Gibson's batting average, again, why would you cease that when it comes to something as important as capitalism or war or whatever. And so that's really my thing. It's like, you know, we should encourage more intellect. And that's why I always say when people tell me, you know, Jared, you're doing too much, you're overthinking it, I get very defensive with that. Like, don't ever, like, Bile, I think I was just drinking my water. I think about, you said on here something along, not that, whenever, but that I think about all the time. You said, I can never drink enough water. I'm always drinking water. There's never enough water. Why put a limit on the water? Drink more water. And that's how I feel when people say, you know, you thinking too much about that. You're overthinking that. I'm like, nah, man, don't ever tell me I'm overthinking something. I can never overthink something. I refuse to think that I can overthink something. And I think we've even taken that phrase paralysis of analysis to too far an extent, to the point where we want no analysis.
Study long, study long. You don't like none of that shit. I like that.
In spades, it applies. In spades, you're right. But in life, no. Study more.
As a Virgo, I definitely understand overanalyzing. Hey, that's all my whole shit. I love it. I love overthinking. My thing.
I mean, so to me, thinking is like water. You can never have enough. Drink more. Drink up. Or, you know, so yeah, that's obviously there's whatever, but in general, yeah. I know 2 F's. One can overthink decisions. I know. But just in general, I don't like when people say, because I think don't discourage thought.
Yeah, well, and from a self-defense standpoint, okay, you think before you go out there.
Right.
So you put a lot of thought and analysis into how I have to defend myself. You put a lot of work into that. So then when you go out there, you're not thinking.
Right.
You're doing what needs to be done to
flowing.
Hopefully get away. Right. You're absolutely flowing. You can't flow if you don't know a thing. You don't know a thing. It doesn't exist. So we have to be intellectuals in all fields, and you know it's cool to be intellectual in a specific area, but we should also broaden our intellect so we know more about different things. Okay, so
yeah, right.
So thanks, Jared, for your invaluable input and analysis. Now we're gonna take a very short break. And when we come back, Jared is going to flip the script and interview Ominiki and Bile. So go ahead and get you some water, and you can never drink enough. And we'll be right back. I'm gonna take myself an old man break, and we will be right back at it in about 2 minutes.
I'm gonna take a.
I'm gonna add some music. I gotta learn how to do all this stuff, play music and all that behind. But
you can always throw the intro on. I'm gonna mute up for a second.
Throw the intro on. It mutes you automatically if I do that. But let's see. How do I? Okay.
Because you said it didn't play at the beginning, right?
Right. I sure didn't. That's true. Yeah. There we go. So here we are.
So this is us coming back. Welcome back.
It's half of us coming back. Well, I guess they'll along soon.
Is Baba taking a break? Is he skipping this part? Is he coming back?
No, he's coming back.
Yeah, he just taking.
Okay, right.
So we still live. We still ain't on them.
Yeah, we here. We here.
The intro played, but it's
the intro played.
Okay.
He said 2 minutes, so maybe we'll just.
No, it's only 30 seconds. That video's
No,
only
I'm
30
saying he
seconds.
said
Yeah.
we were taking a 2-minute break.
Oh, okay.
All right, so we ready to go. Let's do it.
So first of all, I appreciate this opportunity. I appreciate being invited to this platform, to this show, to be interviewed. And I did, because I at one point wanted to interview you both on my show, and it just wasn't, whatever, got caught up in whatever. I think I missed an email, never got followed up. So when this came about, I said, well, why don't we split the time if possible, at least start a conversation. And I know some of it has come up, but I did want to start by asking you both, and Ominiki, we could start with you. Just the origin stories. How did you come to both your names and what they mean? And then how did you both come to being students of Baba Balagoon? You know, what or working with, how did you all end up at the end of the day at Warrior Class?
Well, I don't know how far back you want to go, but
to the beginning.
Okay. I'm from Chicago originally, like Baba, but unlike Baba, I was raised in Georgia, Atlanta, side, Stone Mountain area. I moved here when I was pretty small. And let's see, how can I skip forward here?
Were you born to this name? Did your parents give you your name?
No. I actually received divination from Baba, and he gave me my name, or he Ifa gave me my name through Baba, basically.
And what does it mean?
It means to prostrate to Olokun. And Olokun is an Orisha, female Orisha of the deepest sea. So many people are from, or deepest waters. Many people are familiar with Yemaya or Yemaja, and Yemaja is also over water, but Olokun is over like the deep waters.
And so you said, so you went from Chicago to Atlanta. Was that a family move?
I moved here with my mom and my brother, and I went to school here. I was a gifted student. I went to Magnet Elementary and high school, and I ended up going to Georgia State University. I studied film there, but I did not finish. Well, I don't want to blame anyone for not finishing other than myself. But I also was a writer. I guess I kind of still am, but I wrote a lot more back then. And thought that I was so gifted and good that I didn't need to finish school. And that was a mistake, I can admit. Let's see. I would say eventually I had a child who actually became interested in martial arts because I'm skipping all over the place, but I also was involved in theater and in high school, and that was my first experience with martial arts. Because they bring in martial arts teachers to kind of show you what the similarities are between what it is that you do in theater, and I guess like being like water basically, and also how that affects martial artists. I thought that was interesting, but I never really saw myself being a martial arts student until I had a small child, and I decided that I wanted him to be involved in martial arts because of what I thought was the discipline aspects. So what I did was I became involved in Wing Chun. There was a Hebrew Israelite that taught Wing Chun here. There was two of them. One of them taught Wing Chun and one of them taught karate. and we met at the same times. And every once in a while, we would meet with a karate teacher, but mostly it was Wing Chun that I did for about a year. And I did think that it was. I became really fascinated with the training part, and just the how it sharpens your senses. So I didn't continue to follow Wing Chun because my work schedule kind of got out of control, because at that point I basically I don't really think of myself as a single mother, because I've really had a lot of help from my family. But I did work a lot in order to support my son. And so I kind of allowed that work schedule to steer me away from doing things that that I really needed to be doing. So in a roundabout way, I became a yoga basu. Um, and the reason why that's related to me becoming coming back to martial arts is because the schedule that I had to adhere to getting my yoga certification showed me that, I can do other things. I don't have to just work all the time. I need to get back to allowing my son to take martial arts, because that's how it began. So once I got my certification in yoga, I started to look for a school for my son. And I spoke with a sister who I respected, and she told me that her son was actually going to another martial arts teacher. But she also told me that the one that she really thought that was the best was Baba. And she said that, the schedule of the school didn't fit with her son's schedule. That was why she didn't have him going to Baba's school. So I was like, okay, well, I could fit in my schedule with Baba's schedule. It actually ended up being perfect. So I started taking my son to African martial arts. And I actually didn't take class for like 6 months. I stayed on the sidelines. I took naps when I needed to, that kind of thing. But after a while, and because of a personal experience I had with someone who I was dating, I finally jumped in and became part of it. I mean, it's been one of the most wonderful experiences of my life.
No, right on. Bile, the same thing. I appreciate that. How same question. What is your sort of origin story and how you ended up?
Okay, so I'll
class.
I sum that up a little quicker.
I was gonna say under a minute.
Right. Get to because I guess you wants to know more about as far as how I got into martial arts and hooking up.
Well, I mean, I am curious about the basics. Where are you from? How did you end up? The same thing was Bile a given name? Was it given problem. And all of that? Yeah.
Right. So yes. No. So my name Bile is my full name is Ogun Bile, and that did come from Baba. And the way it works is you in class for a while, and after a while, a few months and stuff, your name Dan and John and Brian, and this dude over here named Ogunbaki and Akinbola and Amusan. You're like, yo, what's up with all these? Why y'all got these names? You know what I'm saying?
You start feeling more out of place.
I'm one of these dudes that don't ask questions in new places. I soak up and try to ear hustle and get everything like that until I feel like I really gotta ask a question. And so I'm realizing there's something else that this dude is doing. Into something else. I don't know what it is. Ain't nobody talking to me like that. But into something else. They meeting, they talking, these specific people with these strange names. And I found out I was a priest, and I was very skeptical. And it was people, so somebody's like, yo, you go to him and he give you divination. I'm like, what's divination? It's almost like getting your fortune read or something like that, or your horoscope, but it's with more detail. It's deeper than that. You know what I'm saying? So, okay. So I go to him for divination. And you don't get a name just because you go get divination. That happens later if you keep pursuing it. But I wanted to know what this divination thing was, and when I got divination, you could tell that he wanted to show you, because he knew I never experienced any of this. He wanted first for me to know that this is basically an intellectual thing, that it was science to what he was doing, that it wasn't it wasn't no spookism. It was a science. He explained the science, the binary code thing. He broke that down, and then said, hey, so this is how it works, blah blah blah. Now I'm gonna show you how good I am with this thing. You know what I'm saying? I'm as good. I thought I'd train with him for a while. He know how I'm looking at him in martial arts. He's like, I'm as equally good at being able to do this. So I'm like, okay, well, now I got to see what's going on. And he told me some things. One, my mama was going to lose something. We had to figure out what it was. And there was some other things. And I always use that one because that's the one that really explained and showed me divination and how it works, because we had to figure out, he got the message, my mama was going to lose something. But I got to figure out what it is. So the way that works is you holding something that either means yes or no. And he does throw stuff in the air, throw stuff on the ground, and look in the air and count some stuff in his head. And you know what I'm saying? And then he'd be like, the right hand. And the right hand is yes or no. And then you take it. He don't know which hand it is. You put it behind your back. He don't know what's going on. He just say right hand or left hand. So they're going to take some of your mom? Is it her life? Let's find that out first of all. I ain't even say that. He said, hey, like, is it her life? So no, it ain't. Okay, is it her car? Is it her house? So somebody going to take my mama house. So he went through this whole system, and we come to find my brother is going to take my mama's house. What does that mean? This is like, well, what? So I don't even say nothing about nothing to nobody. I'm like, this is crazy. He told me a bunch of other stuff. This is crazy. This stuff going on. This whatever. But everything happened. And like I said, I use that one example because it explains divination and what it means. That Ifa, it comes to you one way, but you may picture it one way, but it's not exactly that way. So long story short, everything come to pass. So that means this is gonna happen. I gotta say something to my mama. So I'm like, Mom, I talked to the African priest. I know this sounds crazy, but this happened. He told me these things gonna happen. Everything happened, and he told me that my brother's that he gonna take the house from you. And she just quiet. My mama is a preacher. She's a reverend, Christian reverend, who thinks that Dick Gregory was a radical. So
that
he's like, what? My mom is quiet. She says, well, I just signed the house over to your brother yesterday.
Oh wow.
He said some tax stuff he was going through. He needed the house to blah 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 blah.
Oh wow.
Very, very, very eye-opening moment when that happened. It was like that was it. That was the finally know this stuff is real to the T. And he gave the house back after a while, signed it back over to her. You know what I'm saying? Didn't happen overnight.
But so wait a minute. So it's both of you ended up studying from Baba for reasons other than you were seeking specifically African martial arts.
I wasn't.
Am I hearing this correctly? Yeah.
No, I wasn't. No. I was in. Hold on. Say that. Ask that question again, so I can.
So in other words, it's because I might have thought you all were looking for this particular kind of training and spiritual guidance, but it sounds like you were like, brother around the way is teaching some martial arts. I'm gonna start doing that, and then whoop whoop whoop. Next thing you know,
then you find
so
out.
that's wild. Okay.
This really is.
Yeah. So yeah. So exactly. So me.
So if I can say real quick,
sure.
So with the way I'm taught in Ifa, we don't proselytize. So I've been teaching martial arts 35 years. I've been training 52 years. So that is what I'm more known for. I don't even push because there are a lot of people who practice Ifa like a Christian. So I don't rock with many, and they'll tell you that. I don't rock with many people that practice because I don't approach it like a Christian. I approach it like it's taught traditionally, where you don't believe in things you can't see and touch. And even divination is not done. That's why I laughed when he said fortune teller. He thought it was because some people approach it that way. I approach the science of it, right? And so, since I don't proselytize, people, the way they get curious and say, well, why are they supposed to got these different names? Like Bile said, that's always what happens. People, hey, I want a name, and we all laugh because it doesn't happen that way. We just give you, capoeira does that. You get a name, you know, the alligator or whatever. It's a nickname. But we're giving you names. To us, names represent your mission, your power, and your challenge. And so when you get a name, it has to be divine or not just something you just take or some just throw at you. We got to look at it so it is germane to you. And that's how that works.
Yeah, bro.
Right.
So so I just want to say, I definitely didn't know what I was getting into. And it's definitely when you in that class, and I found myself saying all of the names I knew that were African Yoruba names in the car by myself because I wanted to speak the language so bad. It's something in you that wanted to talk like that. I wanted one of them names. You know what I'm saying? After a while I wanted one of them because I wanted to get into it. So I was looking for real quick, and I'll get into more about myself, but I had a show, one of the greatest internet TV shows to ever be done live.
That's true.
Starvingthesystem.com. Outside, of course.
Black liberation media.
It's still on. It's on YouTube, but I don't promote it like that. But I had one of the first podcasts before they were even called a podcast. Baba was one of the guests, so I had to get a guy from Arizona to tell me about African martial artist. You got the African martial artist in Atlanta. I'm talking to a guy in Arizona on the phone. He like, this is a guy named Balagoon. You get him on the show because I'd already had one martial artist. So I get him on the show, and he was great. And so after he was on the show, I come from Wilmington, North Carolina. That's where I was born and raised. I went to. I'm gonna get back to it, and I'm gonna bring it full circle. I went to Wilmington, North Carolina. I went to E.A. Laney. I went to the same high school as Michael Jordan. What else about myself? I was a regular student. I came into knowledge of self. I was a good student, actually. I came into knowledge of self in the 9th grade, and it was the white man is the devil stuff, and I stopped caring about school immediately. And just everything was, my studies went into our history, and now I'm trying to learn about this stolen legacy, and I'm trying to learn about all this stuff that they haven't told us. I'm trying to really understand the Bible now from a different aspect. And I'm taking Bible classes. I don't even care about, I need to take biology. I ain't even bringing up, I'm still cool, so I ain't taking no books home, because back then, I'm in the 90s, I'm trying to be cool, even though it was all Malcolm X. I don't care nothing about the white man's education. I'm being ignorant, really. I didn't know at the time. Nobody around me was saying, and this is real quick, this is how you know you're a product of your environment. Just like in your household, if you didn't grow up hugging and kissing and saying I love you, you don't know it's normal if you ain't around other families and stuff. So you don't know that everybody's moving this way. I didn't hear college till about the 11th, 12th grade, and all of a sudden I'm in the 12th grade, people talking about coming. What is it talking? You going to college? College? What? Ain't nobody in my family. So I didn't even think about college. So I ended up trying to catch up and going to community college and getting a trade and everything because I wasn't caring about school. I didn't take no books home. I was one of those people who didn't have to study. I made 100 on my exams at the end of on my in biology, and I didn't even take no books home. I didn't do any of that, and I could have been a really good student. But I didn't apply myself. I started caring about us and thinking that I didn't need this receipt to go further. But I did graduate on time and everything, but I just went left because I didn't have a teacher to say, hey, somebody to guide me. I didn't have anybody older or anything. I didn't have a father figure. I grew up at the corner store. You know what I'm saying? That's a whole nother story. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, I had a great mother, but because my father left out when I was like 7 or 8, he took all the equity out the house and everything, stuff that I didn't understand back then. But my mom had to start working like doubles. So she would work 11 to 7 or 3 to 11 and then maybe 11 to 7 sometimes at Corning. So I'm home by myself. My brother, he's out in the street. I'm out. I'm tripping. So I had too much freedom. My mom called me. She wanted me when she was at work. She called the corner store when I was 13 years old. You know what I'm saying? So that's how I grew up. I was smart, but I was out there from a young age, out in the street. You know what I'm saying? Sold drugs. You know what I'm saying? Sold crack. I stopped selling crack. I told that on. Go ahead.
No, finish that. I'm sorry. Finish that.
I was just gonna say I told this before on this show, but I stopped selling crack one day when a crackhead told me I did not. I told him I couldn't give him up for $5, and he came back later that day and was like, "Man, you don't know when you tell me no, what that do to me, man? What the thoughts go in my head." Stopped selling crack. Shortly after that, moved to Atlanta because a police officer recognized me. I told that story on here too, but it would be if you didn't hear the story, it would be the example of being a 18-year-old. You're in Decatur, but you're from Atlanta, and Decatur police officer said, "Hey, I know you. Your last name Jones." And I was like, "Okay." I left the next day and moved to Atlanta. My town too small for. I mean, there's no way a police officer know me. I'm not doing it like that. I wasn't selling drugs at that point no more. You know what I'm saying? I'm selling weed or whatever, but that was like almost illegal back then in my mind. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, moved to Atlanta.
That's not a real crime. That's just...
Came up here and started selling bootleg CDs and DVDs, and I really thought that was legal. And I became the bootleg man and was on little 5. I was at 5 points, not little 5 points, but I was that guy.
Did you ever get in trouble for that? Because that academically, that's sort of my earliest interest was what happened to people who were selling those bootleg mixtapes and stuff like that. And it was a lot of people. It was a lot of crackdown on that. Like people were being treated as if they were the dope man.
Yes. Yeah. So I never got in trouble while I was out there selling CDs. Shout out to Lamont Smith. I'm gonna say his whole name. It's my friend Lamont. If you watching, I was sitting home one day and Lamont came from Atlanta. He came from North Carolina. My friend from the Bronx. Like, yeah, I need some money, man. We need to do something, man. So he had a scheme. He wanted me to go to New York with him. And I was like, I'll go. I'm down. I'm a ride. He come to get me. He see this box of DVDs and CDs like, yo, what's these? I was like, these, I'd be selling these. People come to the house. I didn't go out back then. People came to the crib and stuff. He's like, let me take these along the way. And we stop. I'm a hustler. We stop in North Carolina, almost outside of Charlotte. He goes to Walmart. Oh my God. He outside of Walmart trying to sell bootlegs this is not urban Walmart. This is suburban Walmart. Somebody called the police.
Of course.
So at the time, they didn't say anything. The police pull up. I'm in the car and there's weed in the car. At the time, I'm not smoking it. It's his weed and his and everything. And he didn't say anything about movies. He saw the weed, so he's like, "Hey, there's weed in the car. I'm taking you to jail." He had what was it? He had license. I didn't have any ID. So if they took him, well, it was something. I took the charge for him some stupid type of way because I thought it was just going to be a weed charge. And I had my ID. If they would have took him, he wouldn't have been able to get out. So I took the charge for him. Took the charge, and then while I'm in there for the weed charge, that was going to be a ticket. They went through the car and saw the DVDs. And that's why they originally called them, but they just forgot about it. They was like, they wanted to do something they never done before. So they got me on a counterfeit charge. Federal counterfeit charge. But they dropped it. I ended up having to get a lawyer and they dropped. But they just wanted to go through with the process just so they could have it a precedent. So I did go through that process and get that. That happened.
I've heard attorneys say you may avoid the charge, but you won't avoid the ride. That, in other words, they're gonna you may not do the time, but they're gonna mess you up. They're gonna cost you, take up your time.
Listen, I was locked up 4 months for something I didn't do just while they sorted it out because I couldn't pay a $250,000 bond at the time.
Yeah, that
sounds
get it lower. Yeah.
So anyway, I'll speed it right along. So I come to Atlanta. I changed my criminal ways. I become an organizer. I start starve the system, and I have Bobo, and I start donating stuff and things of that nature, and I start taking Baba's class, and I go in Baba's class because I did a show and I feel like I got to be about it. So I go in there, and I come from wrestling background, and then I took a little Jeet Kune Do. Bruce Lee was my idol. In wrestling, when I wrestled, because my friends were the state champions, they had access to the gym, and they were martial artists. So it was the first mixed martial arts before we ever seen it. We'd have Kung Fu guy, Karate guy, Taekwondo guy, and then a big heavyweight, and then me, 165 pounds that just want to learn and what they doing. So I go in there and fake it till I make it. And I never made it. I always got beat up, but I learned and was all just tough. And so I took Jeet Kune Do. I thought that was everything. I wrestled. I thought I could kill anybody. I wrestle, so I'm going to get you off your feet. I took Jeet Kune Do, so I do my nose like this, and I throw a fast jab, so I'm nice. You can't beat me. And I walk up in Baba class, and the first day I'm like, oh my God. So, because first of all, Jeet Kune Do make other stuff look like it's not the truth. That's the whole thing. This stuff ain't honest. It's all this. That's what Bruce was doing. He was talking about all that. He was talking about, but he had a little bit of that. He didn't know he had it. He didn't get a chance to iron that stuff out. So I'm in Baba's class, and I'm like, this is crazy. This is crazy that I've been in self-defense. And before, even after Jeet Kune Do, I would go, when I stay in the summers in Connecticut and New York, I would go to the martial arts places because they let you go free for like 2 weeks, and I'd go to class to class to class to class. So I was getting all this free stuff, and I'm tough. I was beating up, the white boys that was brown belts because they ain't never been in nothing. So when we sparred, I done fought some people. I'm gonna tell you, what I mean? They ain't got it. And I get in Baba class, and it's the truth. And everybody in there is for real people. And the mindset is more than self-defense. This is a mindset for Black self-protection. How you, per se, need to be looking out there. What you need to be looking for and how you need to move. Because you know how you are and what we do and how we... It was a whole different thing. Just that. Not to mention this. I done fucked around and found the Michael Jordan of this shit.
Oh, damn.
$25. Holy shit. And ever since, it's been that feeling all the time. And it's just, it's been great, man. I knew from the beginning, I was like, yo, I want to learn this shit. And I want to teach this shit to as many people that I can. I want this to be the biggest. This should be, what I'm doing should be mandatory in every school, every freaking, forget public school, but it shouldn't be a Black charter school. It shouldn't be a private school that's dealing with Black people that shouldn't have African martial arts in it. It should be mandatory for your foundation, your Black grassroots. You shouldn't be able to have, it should be mandatory. It should be a pillar of Atlanta. It should be a pillar of Black community. And that's been my mindset ever since.
Wow. So, wow. So I'll admit that there's a couple things I have, but there's really only one other question I wanted you both to speak on, given what I assume are some relative time constraints for all of us. But
I'll do this again.
Yeah, well, definitely. But so Bile, I mentioned to you before that one of my homeboys, one of the 00 Africans that don't ever want his name mentioned, is in these spaces that you're in or have been in. And he co-signed, you know, from the beginning. He said he's seen you at one, I don't know, some convention, wherever you would have been fighting somebody. He saw it and he said, this dude is for real. And so I wanted to have, I've always remembered him telling me that, because he told me that when we first started linking up on the platform a couple of years ago. And but as I've been in these, paying more attention to these YouTube streets a little bit over the last few years, one of the lanes I have visited is the sort of online fighting community, or variations of the fighting communities. But related to our first part of our conversation, I did want to ask you both, sort of, how do you go about vetting, or just in general, what do you think about this space? That's really what my question says here. What do you all think about this space that is YouTube as it relates to the fighting sciences? Because I watch some folks and sometimes I wonder, can you really, like, I don't know. Sometimes it looks like they do something. It looks like I'm not.
It also,
I kind of want to find out. I don't want to fuck around and find out, but I kind of want to find out.
It kind of reminds you of the whole subject of this particular show, the anti-intellectualism. Right. You have people who are like, they seem very convincing. They seem like they know what they're talking about. They explain it pretty well. And then they show you something and you don't really know what you're looking at. So you're not sure whether or not that could really work, if you're out in the street. I have, from what I've seen, there's a lot of crap out there, to be perfectly honest. Sometimes you'll see something and it seems like, actually they do seem like they have a grip on something. Maybe everything they're studying may not be, the truth, so to speak, but they have a few things that they found that do work. I think that this show was actually developed because we see so many things that just are not reality. So Baba, we have these demonstrations.
Could take that shit no more.
Right, where Baba actually shows, okay, it doesn't take, you don't have to do all these twists and turns, you can't get a kick off like that, like he's showing the very practical steps that you can take.
Dumb shit.
Right, exactly. To protect yourself.
Oh, definitely. I co-sign.
Is there something, sorry, Bile, to cut you off, but is there something that you all, Ominiki, is there something that you look for?
I knew that's what he's getting. That's what I knew.
Is there, are there tells, so to speak? Like, no, seriously. So yes, like my homeboy saw you, Bile, at, I forgot what it was, but I got to ask him again, like at some exhibition. I don't know what it should we be able to look, if you're presented as a teacher on this YouTube or whatever, should we be able to find some documentation of, like you would say, Jared's been to this conference, he presented over here, he did this. Should we be able to see some sort of track record, or do we have to be in those spaces ourselves to really know, or is there something that,
So it's a little different if you're not trained. It's a lot different. If you were trained, and you could say, okay, he was trained by so and so, that's going to tell a lot of stuff if you know that person he was trained by. So if you're untrained, it's a little different. And to answer your original question, I don't think, like for me, it ain't no documentation you're gonna find on me. If you see me somewhere or see me do something, then you seen that or you heard something, but you ain't, what you gonna find? I got no paperwork. I've been where I've been. I did what I did. You know what I'm saying? You see me do security at the Flame, then you seen me one night, or you heard about something or whatever. That's it. Ain't nothing to go on YouTube to go find. You're not gonna find Baba with certain tools. You can't find that. So how do you find out what Baba know about? You know what I'm saying? Certain things you ain't gonna see. You either know or you don't. So it's hard because, just like you said, I'm gonna listen. If you're smart enough, you can be somebody that's a physics. Let's say I'm gonna use something. A physicist. I was about to say, excuse me. I wanted to use a different something else, but But I'll use that. If you're a physicist and you come to me and say, hey, look, I can prove to you that, the universe is this. And then another physicist say, look, I can prove to you it's not that. I can't. I don't know. I don't know what both of you sound good, just like you were saying earlier. I'm not astute enough. So the real answer is you really have to train to be able to know. There's tell signs of a person. If I see him, there's certain things I'm going to look for. If he's not you, but for instance, if he's not talking about tools, then it's hard. I don't know. If I know his martial arts and it doesn't deal with tools, well, I know it's not dealing with real self-protection. But if he's not talking about that at the time, and they're talking about something else, it's hard for somebody that's not trained. It's like that big dude, that big black dude that we keep seeing out there that's telling the women is choking, turn your head the wrong way. It's nothing that y'all going to see that's going to tell y'all this dude ain't for real. You have to train to know he's not for real. Otherwise, it's no real way to know. It's just like the regular people don't know Terrence Howard doesn't know what he's talking about because we ain't got the math. We dropped off at a certain level. So I also want, real quick before I forget, Ogun Bile means Ogun is taking over the house. Ogun is the Orisha of war and iron. So that's what my name means. Ogun has taken over the house. And my other, just so you know, so I don't want that to give the wrong impression to the people and think, oh, he just about that war. I do have another name, which is Orisha Sanya, which is it comes from the Orisha Obatala, which is the Orisha of peace, so to speak. So there's a balance of peace and war. Now, sometimes you have to war to get to your peace. I mean, that's just how it goes. So I just wanted to say that.
No, I appreciate that. So I don't know, one of the other sort of sillier questions I'll just ask real quick is are there any movies that you do? So I'm always saying, for instance, I don't like using movies to make my arguments, but every once in a while a movie does it well. Are there any movies that people might see that that you would recommend to see what a fight should look like, or what actual skilled fighters? Because go ahead. Yeah.
Before I go into that, I do want to say one thing for the people. When you see somebody out there and they're training or they have a technique, some tell things that you can look for: vertical punches versus horizontal punches. So if they're punching like this versus like this, this is how they should be punching. The punch should be not hard. You see what I mean? That's when you know it's the sport. If they don't deal with tools, if they're doing what I'm saying, then it's hard to say they're not serious.
So in other words, hold your fist like you would hold your 45. You can't have it like that.
There you go. If they know how to use tools, I'm not going to speak on the kicks as much, but they're using these elbows and knees when they have to be barehanded, but they have to know how to use these tools and defend themselves against certain tools, or they're not being realistic. So it should be close up. They should be seeking closeness, certain things of that nature, but you still have to be trained to a certain aspect to even know to look for that. That's why I had to give you that to even know to look for that. So it's really hard, but it's just, hey, find this man right here and let him prescribe something. Also, as far as fighting, you want to go first with that?
I can give you a couple of examples.
I know you want.
I couldn't. I just want to make sure you said find this man. I want to make sure we got the right one. Nobody's confused.
Even for the movie,
y'all
too.
Looking real similar right now. Same color shirt, everything.
That is funny.
I was trying.
One of my daughters, I was watching EYL, and you were talking, and my daughter said, "Who is this man in our family over there talking?"
Oh shit! Well, it's an honor. It's an honor. It would be an honor to be mistaken to be in such an
Listen, I used
august
to want to
family.
be in the family group. When I first started training, I'm sitting there odd day, like, man, it's like you my brother. I was like, wow, yeah, it would be cool to be in it.
That'd be pretty cool. Yeah.
Yeah.
But to answer your question, excuse me, a couple of things that I've seen, I would say recently, that I thought were really great fights were there's actually a show called The Old Man that has the dude
Good job.
in it, Jeff Bridges.
Good job.
Oh, that's right. I did see that.
Yeah, and they have, especially I think it's in the second episode or maybe the first episode, they have a really like close quarters fight inside of a car accident that they had. And I was very impressed with how they flowed and how realistic it was for a man of his age, the moves that they were making that, you know, he still totally would be able to do at his
so
age.
he would, because I was watching that saying bullshit. He's too old, and then but the reason, but you saw what they did with that thing, right? The old man isn't him. He's not the old man.
Well, I think
they're all the old men. It's all old men.
It's
their perspective.
Because they have a father. I'm like, you got Bridges and Lithgow. And they got a father. I was like, these old ass men got a father. I was like, what? This must be like 150 years old. I was like, I thought he was the old man. They went older. I was like, you got to be kidding. No, but I watched that and was thinking, this is unrealistic. But you're saying that, okay, all right.
It was impressive.
And we can get Baba from that too. I know Baba really liked Jason Bourne movies, but besides those, Baba.
Oh, you like that? Oh, you don't? You joking? You got it? Okay, I was about to say. All right.
He loves Rumble, that Rumble type of. He love that. Go ahead, Bob.
Well, from not that I'm an actual critic, but as what I've been trying to learn about the filmed fight scenes is that Bourne has too many cuts. The scene has too many cuts. You can't.
It's designed to look like action when they're doing minimum stuff.
Yeah.
The rumbling of the camera, how it cuts from this, then we rumbling. It looks great.
Right.
Baba hates.
We watched the movie last night, and it was so many cuts. I was like, you can't even see what's going on. It is like that's not a real fight scene. That's not helping. Right. That's not a good fight.
They changed actors so they could get some shit done. What they did, it started being fighting. They started getting to it then. But Baba, what would you say about that old man scene? Because I know you've seen it too. That was a great scene, right?
I would say that's the best that's been put out. I was sitting there trying to think of something else, but I think that's the best that's been put out.
Yeah,
it's a great show.
And when
so what about the John Wick movies? What about John Wick movies? They get a lot of discussion.
Now I love John Wick movies, but so if you're far away from reality, I can deal with. I like it. But if you're trying to be real and it sucks, I don't like it. But so John Wick is so over the top. We know that's just not real, right? So I just enjoy the action.
That close quarter gun shooting,
yeah,
far away from reality. Is Iron Monkey, all that. It's Cartoon Tiger. It's as far as reality as that. You thinking you're gonna shoot people? All that stuff is just ridiculous.
All that fast shooting, throwing people, shooting them while you working technique. Come on, man. Get out of here. And that's because people not only don't know martial arts, hand to hand, they don't know firearms.
Yeah, bro.
And so when you compare the two, so when you're shooting,
John Wick is the most realistic.
If I'm using a pistol, I'm not trying to grapple you too. That don't make no damn sense. Now you may be trying to grapple me to get the pistol out my hand. So I better know how to retain my weapon, which is what we train on weapon retention too.
Yeah,
but we also learn how to shoot. When Bile said there's certain tools you'll never see me with on a video, firearm is one. That's the only one. Because
you're not going to John Morant yourself. You're not going to John Morant.
Or the brother who they named as the black
militant.
Oh yeah. I know.
whatever it's called. You're not gonna get me on
identity
that.
extremist. Yeah.
Right. Black identity extremist. You're not gonna get me like that, right? So even one of my students did a video where he's teaching children how to break down AR-15, put it back together, and all of that. I said, "Why did you do that?" "Where's me?" I said, "Yeah, but you're associated with me." So I really don't want it's done now, but I really don't want my students to do it either, because the association gonna go back to me. You know, people when they first come in, they don't even know I deal with firearms. That's later you'll learn that. That we go to the range, we train with firearms, and even in this training with firearms, shooting at a target is not training with a firearm. You learn to shoot at a target, but not to defend yourself. So I had a student. I said, you're doing well. He's tearing the targets up. You're doing well. You're doing well. I said, you got about 99% percentage, right? He said, oh yeah. And boom, I stopped right over his shoulder and hit the target. I said, now go ahead and shoot. He missed every single shot after that, because now shit done got real.
Stress and duress.
That's over your shoulder. Imagine somebody shooting at you. I got into a shoot. I'm walking home and I see a dude walk up to a car and kill a dude in the car. I said, oh shit. And I froze thinking that he won't pay me no attention. And he got up from shooting the dude and looked right at me. I said, oh my God. And when he began to raise his pistol, I pulled mine and we at it. The difference is I can deal with people shooting back at me. He couldn't. And I got him to go and hide behind a car at the front. He made his mistake because his foot is out. I just laid on the ground, popped him right in the leg. And at that point, he fell. I won't go into any more of what happened. And I went home.
Point is, you got to train under stress and duress.
You have to. So if you're training with a knife, you're training with you. That's one way you vet. You train, once again, you have to train. You train with a knife, realistically. Now, you're not using a real knife when you first train. You train with a training knife. But pressure is put on you. We're not just letting you just work a technique. I stick my arm out and then you do the cuts. You throw me. No. What you going to do when I'm coming at you too? Then you realize John Wick is impossible, right? With a firearm, when you train under stress and duress with a firearm, you realize once again, John Wick is impossible. Bourne is impossible. Well, you don't even know what the hell Bourne doing because he's shaking the camera and all that. So all that stuff is impossible. If you take it for entertainment, great. But I'm seeing people now trying to make that real and do all these quick shooting right on a target. They got 3 targets around me, bah, 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 and that looks good.
I want to say too that it's hard to make real fight scenes. You're not going to see choreographed because they don't look exciting.
They don't look exciting, right?
So that's one of the closest one. That old man was like a real fight scene. Right. It wasn't that exciting, but that's how it would really go.
And it's going to be brutal.
Yeah. I wanted to suggest, but this would be real looking from trained people almost. I was thinking of, the joint where they fighting with the karambits. And the
raid.
Yeah. Woo. Fight scene.
The raid with Uko Weiss. Great movie. Ain't realistic, but it's a great movie. Because they have in one scene a dude fighting with a baseball bat. Now we did an episode on how to actually use a baseball bat. Mm-hmm. They doing all kinds of amazing stuff with the bat. Why you spinning the bat in a hallway makes no sense, but it looked good.
Amazing choreography. One of the best fight choreography you're gonna see in a movie. Top 3.
There was a part, and this is kind of it's not really an action movie, but something I was impressed by that I saw in a movie was actually in a movie a lot of people probably didn't see, which is Coming to America 2.
Barbie?
Coming to America 2.
I was just gonna say the Barbie.
I did see it, unfortunately.
toward the end,
unfortunately.
Let's just say that movie would have been good. It's the editing that made that movie bad. Real quick.
It would, would have been good. It'd been good if they didn't shoot it.
They sabotaged it.
If they never shot it, and if all the actors did something else,
No,
then it'd be
the
good.
big wig sabotaged that. They edited all the punchlines.
Look, this is all I'm saying. I'm not going to comment on the comedy, other than to say this: it will never be 1980s Eddie Murphy time again. So let's just.
Whoa, Beverly Hills Cop.
I know, but I'm just saying, let's expect something else,
right?
Because that will never happen again.
I just saw he's talking about
Beverly Hills Cop.
No, but a life part 2. Afterlife.
Yeah.
You saw that. Oh, okay. You saw that. Okay, yeah.
What I was gonna say was toward the end of the movie, there's a big fight scene. Supposedly, you know, all his children are trained in martial arts and all of that. And they have, I think it's the Army, Wesley Snipes people coming in. And, you know, they're defending their house.
Oh, right.
One thing that I saw that I was really impressed by because of the mentality of it was his children were fighting, but they weren't directly fighting the men. You know what I'm saying? They didn't go straight to them. I remember one time they were hitting, they were using their staffs to pepper them with like glasses that they had around. They were doing different things to basically to equalize. Yes. Because you wouldn't, it's not realistic for you to think that a child is just going to go up and, you know, no matter how well trained this child is, just fight a grown man that's a warrior, you know, that's actually seen battle. But they did it in an intelligent way where they were able to use the things around them in their environment to equalize. I'm sorry?
It just said audio is not working.
Oh, no.
What audio?
I can
hear you.
Okay. I don't know how much what
I heard all of that. I don't know what's.
Yeah.
But yeah, I just thought that was impressive because of the thought behind it. You know, they didn't try to make it where these children or these women were going up and just fighting grown men hand to hand. You know, they did things to you know, make it more equal.
Okay. That's interesting.
So they heard it all.
That's too unexpected. I wouldn't have expected to hear either of those. That's why I like Warrior Class. Listen, so unfortunately my time is short right now, but I definitely want to do this again. And have you all made, I don't feel like I've missed that much. Have you all made or considered doing a regular segment on vetting scenes in movies? Like working through a scene in a movie to show people how whack or good it is? I think that'd be
That's actually been an idea, but we haven't learned how to add the clips to the.
Oh right, I forgot. Yeah, we're supposed to be doing it.
Let's talk. Let's talk, especially over the summer. Let's talk. Great. I would definitely be interested in seeing that. So if I can help make that happen, that was
supposed to be a segment 6 months ago.
I mean, we can do all kinds of things. We learn how to do that.
Well, let's wrap. So let's wrap and you know, like you were saying, you know, you trying to be down with the family. I'll try to produce. I'll produce for Warrior Class. I'll try I'll work with you on some stuff. Let's wrap.
You should say that because we are about to start in what about a month or so. It's Ice Cold Carter time.
So okay, look, I should share my screen and show you that that's on my list of questions. Ice Cold Carter is on the list, and Baba knows I had proposed it like even an idea, which is this is my fault. I got distracted for a number of reasons, but we got to have more Ice Cold Carter, man.
We're gonna lean on you. We're gonna lean on you to help us.
Let's do it. Let's
GoFundMe or whatever we set up. We're gonna need you to spearhead it for us.
Let's wrap. I'm saying we need that Ice Cold Carter stuff is essential. We got to make it work.
We ready to start. We got the script. We ready to start. We're gonna talk.
Big appreciation to you all, and thanks for
Thank
having
you.
me and hosting this discussion. I can't wait to do some more. This has been perfect. This is
And I
great.
just want to, excuse me, I wanted to
No,
shout
yeah.
out someone in the chat. Now I can't remember. Oh, Emmanuel Briggs, and there was someone else. The movie, the Gun Fu movie, is Equilibrium. So
Yes.
if anyone hasn't seen Equilibrium, that's another one of
No,
those.
I don't know that one.
Yeah, that's what Kay did and Kristen Bale.
Oh,
Right.
yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's a good one.
Yeah.
It's actually good. I was
You
surprised.
know,
It's actually pretty good.
every day when it
Okay. All right.
Not realistic, but it's definitely good.
Right.
All right. Thank you so much, Jared.
No, thank you all very much. Peace, peace,
It's a
peace,
pleasure.
peace,
Peace.
everybody. Thanks, everybody.
We're glad
All right,
y'all.
everybody. Be safe out there. We're thankful. This was a great episode. And y'all be
Absolutely.
safe out there. Stay black, whatever it is that you may be. Make sure you got your tools, whatever you can carry that's legal in your town. And, love y'all. Peace.
Peace.
Peace to the chat.
Yeah.
Yeah, bro.